Hiya, this is John again, another video by Yuana. This time at the 22-minute mark I've added a small deep dive podcast to explain what you've actually looked at with the property. Just for fun, I've added a small explainer video separately about this property. Might be worth having a look, it might not, depends on you really. A couple of notes I should add is that the market is changing very quickly and dynamically. It's getting harder and harder to find those properties that everybody's searching for. Come the 1st of January, when we're using the euro, I believe the prices are actually going to jump overnight, but we'll see what happens.
Hello, good day. I am Ioana and I am in village Pomoshtitsa today. I like to present to you this interest house which need lots of work. You can see it. It's a really interest. I'm sorry for the noises around. I have neighbors here who are very exciting because the owner sent someone to clean a little bit the garden around, and is something interesting going in the village and everyone is here. Okay, to start, we have here a outhouse with 4 rooms upstairs, huge basement downstairs, additional building on a side with 3 rooms and big garden, more of 2000 square meter land, big village gate, roof hooligan, and garden like a jungle. Is there this old house which look a really interest for me, and can come a beautiful authentic Bulgarian house. Okay, we start with the additional building on the side. This is very poorly. Number 1 room, I even know counting like a room because need lots of work. This is the old kitchen. Maybe the walls are bricks, the floors are mud or old wooden chipboard. Here the floor is wood. You can look at the lawn. Hello, good day. I am Ioana and I am in village Pomoshtitsa today to show you this really big and beautiful project here for someone who like to experience Bulgarian style and life. This is a two, you can call like a 2 houses. Actually it's a main house and an annex with 3 rooms. Yes, nice big house in village Pomoshtitsa. Pomoshtitsa, like a village, is 20 minutes away drive from town Popovo, half hour to town Razgrad, and you have a hour to Ruse or less of 2 hours to Romania airport or to Varna airport. I will start with the main house. Actually here down have 2 exits for the basement of this house. In the past the basement was split into 2 parts, but now is one big stony basement. The garden is like a jungle. I will show you on the back have a little barn which need lots of work. The house have a leaky roof which need to be protected. The house is a good project here for someone who want to try to bring back the lovely life of this house. We have little bit noises around because of the neighbor here. The owner sent someone to cut little bit around the property to I be able to come and take pictures, and everyone is really excited now to can see what's going on, because usually the village is very quiet. In a village don't exist any shop, but everyone prefer and like to use it for holiday home, because many foreigners, most of them are Dutch and Belgians, bought lots of houses, renovate them and rent them for other who want to enjoy Bulgarian summer. And the garden you can see alone, it's really big and it's like a forest. Come now we can take a look of the main house. Probably I will start with the basement and you will see it. We continue walking into the garden and we will start to view the main house, which for me is really interesting. It's a typical traditional old house built with stones, big stones, base, very thick walls, and you can see here have a really big stone steps, which in the past the Bulgarians, this is a one piece. You can see how they have been carried from different places of Bulgaria to can make their nice steps over here. Okay, I'm start with the basement. The basement is really amazing for me. It's so big space and it's all open at the moment because the owner pulled down the wall which was split the two basements before. It's everything down is from stones and big beams, big oak beams. You can see it. Up to here was one of the part, and here was the second part of the basements. You can see even the ceilings are painted different. Here they've been painted in white, and here is the original beams. At the end, at the moment, that big basement have two exits where you can go in and out. The garden need really a good attention. Someone clean it little bit for me around to I be able to do that video for you. I hope I catch the nice day because it start getting dark here, and hopefully my video it's not so dark for you. Over there is that little extra building with 3 rooms there. I will show in a minute. Okay, I managed to go up through these big stones stairs, and this is the garden. Can I see it? It's a really serious jungle or a forest. You have very wide big corridor which you can close it or leave it open. This is the old typical Bulgarian sundurma call, where the old grannies love it to stay here and dry their fruit for the winter or their sheep wool after a wash. Okay, upstairs we have our 4 rooms. This is the typical old ceiling from wood. You can see it. All the windows are still wood, need lots of varnish it, or you can just replace them. The floor is matte, and you can see it. On some places is leaking. When you go up, you got 2 rooms on the left and 2 rooms on the right, and on the middle is a storage, which is perfect for a bathroom and a toilet. to create. You can see have lots of holes on the ceiling and the back wall, because it's wet. We have our last 2 weeks are huge rains, and of course that property, the roof leaking, for this need to be sorted. It's normal to be leaking. From here you can look at the back garden with the barn, and the back wall here have a crack, but it's possible to be fixed it. And continuing to look at around. It's a lot of space. The rooms are with high ceilings. Of course, you can see alone need lots of work, but the house is south looking, and it's a really good space here if someone want to start a new renovation job. And this is the last room. Here all the doors are still here. Nice big heavy wooden doors. The renders are matte on the walls, matte floors, and the ceilings are original matte ceilings. Come we see that little annex on the side. It's interest where have 3 more rooms. The soil is so beautiful here. No one maintaining using these properties from years, and it's a lovely soil. And if you clean it, you have a path here around with the stones. It's nice. This is the second entrance for the basement where we already been, and here is that little annex with 3 rooms, but the ceiling of one of the rooms is totally gone, collapsing to the property. This is the entrance to the property. I will show you in a minute from the street. Okay, can I see it here? This was like a room with old oven, look like was having old fireplace, but only the walls are left, and the bricks of the fireplace all need to be totally redo it. We're waiting the rain to come. Again, here you have another 2 rooms. This was the kitchen. In the past, you can see on the wall have still some pipes. The water and electric are disconnected from long time ago. If anyone will need to be reconnected again. Lots of junks left over here, but the rooms are good sizes, big room. Even this one still have a nice wooden floor full with lots of dust. And it's a shame we can't see well the garden because it's very grassy. But you can see how big thick walls have there. You have like a probably 40-45 centimeter, and there is this beautiful big house. Come, we're gonna see the entrance of the property. I start from the garden. It's quiet now. Probably the neighbors walk away. Oh no, they are still here and talking. Here is the hole for the water meter. This is the big gates into the house. It's amazing. The roof is still here and look in very good condition. Nice big thick beams. Here in the past the grannies was come with the horses and going directly to the barn. This is the back of the main house, which is mud and wooden construction. It's a really serious project for someone. It's a beautiful big village gates. And you can see it from the side of the street. It's a big property. If you have interest, contact us and come and visit.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. Tearing up the standard investment rulebook, you might say.
We are.
We're taking you straight into a project that, well, honestly, at first glance, it looks like a financial and structural nightmare. We're going deep into the practical reality of restoring a traditional rural property. It's located in the quiet, really picturesque Bulgarian village of Pomoshtitsa.
It is a stunning visual case study, isn't it? The sources, I mean, the video tours and the images, they're quite honest about it.
Yeah, they don't hide anything.
No. They show a property in what's, well, accurately described as very bad condition. And, for anyone unfamiliar with restoring these kinds of traditional buildings, it looks like a ruin, just completely daunting.
Exactly. But here's the twist, isn't it? The critical pivot, the aha moment that makes this deep dive so necessary.
Right.
Our sources confirm that despite how bad it looks, all that visual decay, the main house structure itself is inherently very strong.
That's the key phrase.
So we're not looking at foundational failure. It's more about severe localized decay, right? Caused by years of neglect and exposure to the elements.
It's like the difference between, say, a broken leg and maybe skin cancer. One's a core structural failure. The other is progressive surface damage that, if caught, can be dealt with.
That's a good analogy.
And our mission, really, for you, the listener, is to analyze the viability of turning this near ruin into a genuinely valuable asset.
Right.
Whether that's, a legacy family home, maybe a peaceful holiday retreat, or perhaps most intriguingly, a source of rental income. Potentially quite high yield.
And crucially, that whole mission, it really hangs on one strategic decision, doesn't it? The sources highlight it right away. The final proposed use.
Absolutely critical.
Because the definition of the repair scope, the budget, the timeline, it all hinges entirely on that end goal. Do you want to live there permanently? Use it just for quiet holidays? Or are you really focused on maximizing revenue generation?
That's the filter, exactly. If you plan to live there year-round, well, you probably have to spend more on high-end insulation, comfort,
Makes sense.
If it's purely for rental, maybe you focus more on density and durability, things that last.
And if it's a holiday home?
Then you might prioritize, say, charm and authenticity over maximum winter efficiency. It changes the whole calculation.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's try and provide you, the listener, with a full blueprint. We'll start with the unique charm of Pomoshtitsa itself and where this ruin actually gets its inherent strength from.
Right, the foundations.
Then we'll dive deep into the technical segment, focusing on that traditional Bulgarian restoration blueprint, explaining exactly what an embedded timber frame means and why mud brick actually matters here.
It's fascinating stuff.
And finally, we absolutely have to analyze the business side. That 5-year capital recovery plan, the logistics of turning this thing into a passive income machine. So let's start at the beginning, the address, Pomoshtitsa village. You hear rural Bulgaria and sometimes, your mind jumps straight to isolation. But tell us about the specific setting here. What makes this property a potentially unique investment target, especially for people seeking nature and, well, tranquility?
Well, Pomoshtitsa is, I think, highly desirable precisely because it offers that profound peace and beautiful natural surroundings, but crucially, without sacrificing key infrastructure links.
Ah, okay.
It's sort of the Goldilocks zone of rural life, if you like. Not too remote, not too busy.
How convenient is it, though, practically speaking? Because investing in a village or moving there, you need reliable access to services, right?
That's vital, absolutely vital. And the location is pretty strategically placed. It's just 20 minutes from Popovo and around 30 minutes or so from Razgrad.
Okay, so towns are nearby.
Yeah. Popovo offers, essential retail, banking, municipal services. Razgrad is the larger regional hub. So you have the quiet of the countryside, but you're still within a short drive of modern amenities.
That definitely mitigates the risk of feeling cut off.
Exactly. And that balance is critical for any long-term residence or, a successful holiday rental where guests expect both nature and convenience.
And the sources mention something else, a really important community detail. The village already hosts a handful of expats.
Yeah.
What does that small detail tell us about the area's readiness for, say, international investment?
That detail is actually a powerful validator. It really is. It shows there's a successful, established precedent for non-locals adapting to and, thriving in this environment.
So you're not the first pioneer.
Precisely. For a new investor, or maybe a potential resident, that minimizes the feeling of being an outsider. You potentially have a ready-made, albeit small support network and community connection. It just makes the transition to rural Bulgarian life that much smoother.
It proves the lifestyle is viable, maybe year-round even.
Yes, exactly. Year-round.
The sources even specifically mention accessibility for those traveling internationally. They use the example of people coming from China to Bulgaria, positioning this as nice little investment. The combination of the really low initial property price, they say very cheap, and that proven year-round accessibility seems to be a major part of the pitch.
Absolutely. The low initial entry point is, it's the bait, isn't it? But the year-round access and the established expat network,
Yeah.
those are the hooks. They confirm this isn't just some seasonal project you can only use in the summer.
Right.
And that low barrier to entry, the purchase price, it allows the investor to allocate a much larger portion of their budget directly into the restoration and modernization. And that's where the real value appreciation happens. Hashtag tag 1.2 structural assets and liabilities.
Now let's tackle that ruinous look head on, because you see these photos and your first instinct is probably it's a write-off.
Yeah, it looks rough.
But the sources are really insistent, the structure is strong. Where does that fundamental strength actually come from?
It all comes down to the foundation.
Yeah.
That's almost always the most expensive and difficult part of any building to replace or repair properly.
Okay.
And this property boasts a beautiful big basement, described as a massive stone cellar right under the main house.
And we are talking serious stone construction here, presumably, not just a few rocks.
Oh, massive. These traditional foundations were built to last centuries. Seriously solid. The source states this stone base adds both character and strength.
Character and strength.
Yeah. This huge thermal mass, it anchors the building. It also protects the main structure above it from moisture rising from the ground, which is a major enemy of the traditional mud brick we'll discuss.
Okay, so it keeps the damp down.
Exactly. Plus, these cellars provide fantastic natural, cool storage, and they offer a huge amount of character that, frankly, modern buildings just can't replicate. It really is the core structural integrity holding the whole investment together.
So the stone foundation is the anchor, solid base. Let's look at the sheer amount of space available then, because that's what makes the restoration worthwhile, presumably.
There's considerable scope, yeah. The main house itself has 4 rooms upstairs. There's an original wooden balcony, nice feature. And crucially, there's a small storage area at the end of the corridor.
Why is that crucial?
Well, that little storage area is the key to modernization. It's the immediate, obvious candidate for conversion into a functional bathroom.
So you don't lose a bedroom to plumbing.
Exactly. You don't have to sacrifice a main room. It's efficient.
And beyond the main house, there's also this annex building, which makes it potentially a multi-unit compound almost.
Precisely. The annex offers 3 additional rooms. And structurally, despite the overall decay you see elsewhere, the annex building itself is still described as being in good condition.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it dramatically increases the flexibility of the property. Those 3 rooms, they could be set up as a separate guest suite, maybe a dedicated workshop, or perhaps most appealingly for the investment model, a completely self-contained holiday rental unit.
Right, operating independently from the main house.
Exactly. More income streams, potentially.
Okay, now, for that famous aha moment you mentioned, if the foundation is rock solid, Why does the property look like such a decaying disaster in the photos? What's the specific mechanism of damage here?
This is really a fundamental lesson in traditional construction maintenance, or lack thereof, maybe.
Right.
The damage is basically chain reaction. It's caused entirely by the elements.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, high winds, maybe surrounding tree branches,
Oh.
they caused roof tiles to shift or break. Just small movements initially.
Little gaps appearing.
Exactly. And those small breaches allowed for the constant drip, drip, drip of water infiltration. Rain, snowmelt.
Okay, and that water is the enemy.
Yes. Water is the catastrophic enemy of traditional mud brick or adobe construction. The core problem, as the source explicitly states, is that the mud brick has perished because it hasn't been protected.
So the material itself isn't faulty, it just needs shelter.
Precisely. Mud brick is incredibly effective, actually. Great for insulation, great for humidity regulation when it's protected by a sound roof and, properly rendered walls. But when it's continuously exposed to rain, it simply starts to erode and, dissolve.
It's not a defect in the material, it's a failure of the shielding mechanism. The property was basically starved of maintenance.
Exactly right. The destruction you see is a result of progressive water damage. And it's been exacerbated by years of neglect where small leaks just became large torrents running inside the walls.
Wow.
And this is why the sources are so crystal clear. The most immediate, absolutely non-negotiable first step is that the roof needs to be fixed immediately. It has many leaks.
You can't touch anything else first.
No, you cannot realistically start work on the walls until that roof shield is completely impermeable again. If you delay that crucial step, you're just setting yourself up for repeat failure down the line, wasting money. Hashtag tag 1.3, the property canvas and utilities.
Okay, so beyond the buildings themselves, we have to talk about the land. We're discussing a pretty generous plot here. Half an acre, which is over 2,200 square meters. That's a significant chunk of real estate, especially in a rural setting like this.
It is huge, yeah. And it's effectively a complete blank slate right now. While it's currently described, perhaps a bit unflatteringly, as just a forest.
Needs some clearing.
It does. But that's actually a massive advantage for the new owner. It means they can design the outdoor space entirely to their specification.
Total control.
Total control, whether that's, formal gardens, maybe creating microclimates with specific plantings, putting in orchards, or establishing a large vegetable patch for that true rural self-sufficiency lifestyle.
Right. That appeals to a certain market.
Definitely. It offers genuine potential for permaculture, or simply creating a beautiful, sprawling leisure space, which is pretty essential if you're trying to attract high-end holiday renters. They expect nice grounds.
It's really a canvas for lifestyle creation, isn't it? And a crucial point for any restoration project. Utilities. Often, that's a major hidden cost. What's the status here? Are we talking bringing in power lines from miles away?
Thankfully, no. The status is actually quite reassuring. Water and electricity are currently disconnected, yes, but the source makes it very clear this was a deliberate action. For safety reasons, given the state of the property.
Okay, so it wasn't cut off for non-payment or anything.
No. It seems purely preventative. They confirm that these utilities can be easily reconnected once renovation starts, and that removes a massive potential cost and headache. It's a big de-risker.
Yeah, knowing you don't have to run new lines miles down a dirt road or deal with expensive negotiations for brand new access. That's huge.
It is. You're essentially just reinstating existing infrastructure, which is much simpler and cheaper.
That clarity really helps with the budget planning tremendously. And one final detail on the damage profile. We're told the most visibly ruined section, the really bad part, is the wall on the street side.
Yes, that's noted. It's a small detail, but I think it's an important psychological reassurance for an investor.
How so?
Well, it means the most dramatic-looking decay, the bit that makes you gasp when you see the photos, is localized to the area of highest exposure and visibility, the side facing the street and the prevailing weather, presumably.
Okay.
It kind of reinforces the diagnosis we discussed, that the decay isn't some deep systemic structural failure across the entire main building, but rather a specific point of failure caused by exposure and that critical lack of protection. It frames it more as a repair job, albeit a big one, not a complete structural replacement job.
So we've established the foundation is strong, the location's desirable, and the damage, while it looks extensive, is essentially localized water damage from a failed roof. Now we move on to the restoration blueprint itself. How exactly do you go about fixing a mud brick wall that has, well, essentially dissolved in places?
Right. The repair philosophy here, according to the sources, must be preservationist first. That's the starting point. The goal is to keep as much of the original structure as possible while rebuilding.
Okay. Why is that so important?
Well, you want to retain the character, obviously, but also the inherent thermal mass qualities that these fantastic historic homes offer. You lose that with modern, thin materials. Hashtag tag 2.1, the repair philosophy.
The core process sounds almost, well, archaic. The source says the fix involves literally needing to peel back the roof.
It does sound drastic, but it's essentially a complete surgical intervention. Before you can properly address the damaged walls, especially the upper sections, you have to remove the entire protective layer of the roof.
The whole thing.
Often down to the rafters, yes. You inspect the timber structure, replace any rotten beams if necessary. This allows you to work safely in a dry environment and, critically, to stabilize those upper sections of the wall from above. This peeling back is really the first non-negotiable step after you've got the site safe and maybe utilities back on.
Okay, wait, let me just challenge you on the material strategy for the rebuild itself. If the traditional mud brick structure failed precisely because it lacked protection, why would the expert guides suggest rebuilding the damaged top floor using like-for-like traditional mud bricks? Why not just tear down those vulnerable sections and replace them with modern, low-maintenance, maybe waterproof materials like concrete blocks or modern ceramic bricks? Wouldn't that be a better long-term guarantee for the investor? Less worry.
That's a fundamentally important question. Really gets to the heart of it, especially for the investment-minded listener. Why stick with the problem material?
Exactly.
The reason we'd return to traditional materials here is really twofold. It comes down to thermal performance and, crucially, legal authenticity and value.
Okay, thermal performance first.
Right. These thick traditional walls, made of mud brick, possess incredible thermal mass. They absorb heat slowly during the day in summer and release it slowly at night. In winter, they hold the heat in.
So they regulate temperature naturally?
Exactly. They regulate humidity naturally, too. This leads to a much more comfortable internal environment and potentially lower energy bills than you'd typically get with a modern, thin-walled concrete or block structure.
So it's actually about comfort and efficiency, not just looking old-fashioned.
Precisely. Modern blocks are fast to build with, sure, but they often don't provide the same quality of life or the inherent energy efficiency that's really beneficial in regions like Bulgaria, which experience pretty severe seasonal temperature swings, hot summers, cold winters.
Okay, and the second reason, authenticity and value.
Yes. Remember, the goal here is capital appreciation in a traditional Bulgarian village setting. If you start destroying the original character by putting in obviously modern materials externally, you risk destroying the premium value associated with that authenticity.
Right, it stops looking like a charming traditional house.
Exactly. So the technical strategy suggested is clever. It's to use an embedded timber frame. Think of it like a sort of wooden cage structure built within the wall, and then infill that cage with the traditional mud bricks.
Okay, let's break down that embedded timber frame. What's its purpose? Why add wood inside the mud?
The timber frame is crucial, particularly in Balkan regions, which can be seismically active, even if only mildly. Traditional timber framing provides flexibility and sheer strength that the mud infill alone lacks.
So it's for earthquake resistance, partly?
Partly, yes, and general structural integrity.
Yeah.
You create a robust internal skeleton, which is properly anchored down to that strong stone foundation below. The mud brick then fills the gaps in the frame, providing the insulation, the thermal mass, and the authentic look.
So it's a hybrid system, really.
It is. It's a blend, the flexible, strong timber frame providing the structure, and the authentic mud brick providing the bulk and the thermal properties. This approach preserves the home's original character while ensuring it meets modern stability standards and potentially seismic codes, depending on the specifics.
And is this a common technique?
For skilled local builders familiar with traditional restoration, the sources imply this is viewed as an easily achievable restoration method. It's not seen as some complex experimental new construction. It's traditional know-how. Hashtag 2.2, addressing the annex and interior potential.
Okay, moving over to the annex building. You said it's structurally sound overall, but it did suffer some roof damage. The source mentions the loss of the end room, the roof, and the back wall are actually gone. That sounds pretty drastic.
It is a significant failure in that one corner. Definitely sounds bad. But, compared to the task of stabilizing the entire main house and potentially rebuilding large sections of its upper walls, replacing the roof and the back wall of just one room in the annex is considered relatively straightforward. The source actually describes it as no big deal.
Really? No big deal?
Relatively speaking, yes. because the overall structural integrity of the annex, as a separate unit, remains strong. It's a more contained rebuild with a very clear scope. And importantly, this makes it highly valuable for potentially quick conversion into rentable space, maybe even before the main house is fully finished.
Ah, okay. Get some income flowing sooner.
Potentially, yeah.
That's right. So once the main shells, the house and annex are structurally sound and weatherproofed, the interior then needs to be brought into the 21st century. What can actually be saved internally and what absolutely must be replaced?
Well, the good news, according to the source, is that most of the original internal floors can likely be recovered.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that saves significant cost and, importantly, preserves valuable character. Things like original wide floorboards, maybe some more patterns that tell a story. People value that.
Definitely. But utilities must be new.
Absolutely. The fundamental utilities must be fully modernized, no question. This requires a complete new electricity installation, everything brought up to current safety standards, and of course, new water installation pipes, connections, the lot.
And the plumbing, the bathroom situation, that's solved by that strategic conversion of existing space you mentioned earlier.
Yes, exactly. That small storage room at the end of the corridor in the main house is really the linchpin for making the main house work efficiently. Converting that into a functional bathroom is almost certainly the most cost-effective way to make the main house habitable and rentable.
Without disrupting the main living areas.
Precisely. You avoid having to build costly, intrusive extensions or sacrifice a bedroom. It just reflects smart, space-efficient design, really driven by the constraints and opportunities of the traditional structure itself.
This brings us neatly to a really fascinating dilemma, one that every investor in traditional real estate probably faces at some point. Where do you draw the line between historical authenticity and modern practicality? And in this case, we were talking specifically about the windows.
Ah, the window debate. Yes, it perfectly encapsulates the entire project's central tension, doesn't it?
It seems so.
The sources note that other Europeans who have restored properties in Pomoshtitsa have often gone to really great lengths to keep them as original as possible, and that frequently means insisting on thin-paned, traditionally framed wooden windows.
Which look beautiful, presumably. Very authentic.
They do look very nice, yes.
Yeah.
Very much in keeping. But the consequence of that absolute authenticity, while aesthetically pleasing, is stark. The source is blunt. It is not very practical in the winter.
Right. If you're pouring significant investment into this property, you really can't afford for it to be unusable or, exorbitantly expensive to heat for 4 or 5 months of the year. That kills the rental potential or your own enjoyment.
That's the critical financial trade-off right there. An authentic, single-glazed wooden window might look fantastic for an Instagram photo, but it will inevitably lead to massive heat loss and potentially cripplingly high utility bills in a cold Bulgarian winter. And that immediately impacts the financial viability, especially of a year-round rental model. Guests won't pay premium rates to be cold.
So if the investor wants year-round use either for themselves or, crucially, for income generation, what is the modern pragmatic suggestion from the source?
The suggestion is pretty firm, actually. Replacement windows fitted with double glazing are described as a must-have.
A must-have, non-negotiable.
Pretty much, yes. Not negotiable for practical use, especially if the proposed goal involves long-term residence or generating passive income through year-round tourism. Double glazing is simply the simplest, most effective way to ensure decent thermal efficiency and reduce those heating costs dramatically.
But how do you stop the property ending up looking like, a modern concrete box accidentally dropped into a traditional village with ugly white PVC windows everywhere? You don't want to undermine the unique charm that attracted the investor in the first place.
No, absolutely not. And this is where the aesthetic compromise comes in, a way to sort of stay in conversation with the local architecture while ensuring that essential modern comfort.
Okay, what's the compromise?
If double glazing is deemed necessary, the specific suggestion is to ensure the frames have a unique color to match the other restored properties in the village.
Ah, so choosing the right color and style of frame.
Exactly. Maybe a wood effect finish or a specific color like a traditional green or brown that fits the local palette. This means you achieve the critical functional upgrade, the thermal efficiency, while consciously maintaining the rustic, traditional aesthetic that defines the village's charm and ultimately drives its property value.
It shows an understanding of the local context.
Yes, and a respect for the community's visual identity. It's a smart compromise.
Okay, we've covered the location, the condition, the technical blueprint for fixing it. Now, let's talk seriously about the money. This is obviously a massive project that's going to require significant capital up front. How does the investment potentially turn from just being a cost into an actual revenue stream? This all loops back to those three potential end goals you mentioned at the start.
Exactly. Recapping those usage paths is vital because, as we said, they define the budget and the strategy. So first, there's the straightforward family home path that's a purely personal investment focused on quality of life, maybe less pressure on immediate financial return.
Right.
Second, you've got the holiday home path used by the owner maybe 2 or 3 times a year, really relying on that peaceful setting for personal escape. Again, income might be secondary.
Okay.
But the third path, the rental conversion, that's the most complex financially, but also potentially the most profitable strategy. It focuses entirely on revenue generation, specifically to recover those potentially immense upfront repair costs.
Right. So to maximize that rental revenue, the space presumably needs to be optimized to accommodate multiple clients or families. What's the specific conversion layout proposed in the sources to achieve this, like high-density rental income?
The plan suggested leverages the existing structure really quite perfectly for a sort of boutique guest house model. Upstairs, in the main house, we see the conversion of those 4 existing rooms into 3 rentable units.
3 rooms from 4.
Yeah, implying maybe slightly smaller rooms or perhaps one slightly larger suite. And crucially, all 3 sharing that single newly converted bathroom. We discussed the one made from the old storage room.
Okay, so shared facilities upstairs.
Yes, which is quite an efficient room-to-amenity ratio for, say, a budget or mid-range holiday rental market. Keeps conversion costs down, too.
And the ground floor then becomes purely communal space.
Precisely. The downstairs area, below those bedrooms, is converting into an open-plan kitchen and lounge area. This is solely for the common use of all the guests staying upstairs.
Makes sense.
This setup does a couple of things. It minimizes the need for costly separate kitchens or kitchenettes in each room, maximizing the rentable square footage upstairs. And it provides that social functional core, a place to cook, eat, relax, that guests really expect in a rural retreat environment.
It fosters a bit of community among guests, too, maybe?
Potentially, yes. And this entire layout, the source suggests, is fundamentally designed to allow the owner to get your money back for the repairs as quickly and efficiently as possible. It's geared for income.
Let's break down that investment strategy a bit more, this idea of a 5-year recovery plan. It sounds intense. Why would someone undertake a massive, expensive restoration like this only to immediately rent the property out, possibly for years?
This really is the essence of a potentially sophisticated capital recovery model. It's a method of actively turning that renovation debt or invested capital into operating equity much faster than just waiting for passive appreciation.
Okay, how does it work in practice?
The source provides a brilliant, very clear example scenario. Imagine the investor, maybe living abroad, plans to retire and move to Bulgaria in, say, 5 years' time. They find this property now. They don't want it just sitting there derelict for 5 years, continuing to decay and losing value.
All right, that makes no sense.
Exactly. So the strategy is they repair it now, lock in the quality, stop the decay, and crucially, start the clock on revenue generation immediately.
Okay.
So that 5-year window before they plan to personally use it is dedicated specifically to earning income targeted directly to recover the repair costs.
So if the restoration cost is estimated at, say, $100,000.
Then the goal under this model would be to generate $100,000 in net rental income during those 5 years before the owner ever steps foot in the property for their own retirement.
Wow. That significantly de-risks the eventual retirement move, doesn't it? You arrive with the house essentially having paid for its own facelift.
Precisely. And importantly, this strategy doesn't just pay for the repairs. It actively drives the long-term appreciation of the asset itself. Well, a key factor in real estate appreciation, especially for these traditional properties, is ongoing maintenance and condition. A restored property that is actively being rented out, especially if professionally managed, is maintained to a high standard. Much better than one that just sits empty for years.
True. Problems get spotted and fixed quickly.
Exactly. The source is quite clear on this. The longer the property is rented and properly maintained, the more it naturally goes up in value. So you get this dual benefit. You're recovering your capital expenses through income, and you're simultaneously building equity through active maintenance and market appreciation.
Which could eventually lead to a profitable sale down the line, even if the owner's retirement plans change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It turns out what might seem like a temporary inconvenience, renting out your future dream home, into a powerful long-term financial multiplier. Quite a smart strategy if the numbers work.
Okay, but for an investor, especially one living internationally, maybe in China, as the source hypothetically suggested, managing a complex rural rental property in a foreign country sounds like the biggest operational hurdle imaginable. This is where the shift to truly passive income seems utterly dependent on a third-party management company, in this case one called Niama Problemi Ltd.
Yes, this partnership is not just a convenience. The source presents it as a critical de-risking factor, especially for the foreign investor. Operating a rental business, even a small one, in a foreign legal system, different language, different culture, it presents massive challenges.
I can only imagine.
So, Yama Problemi Ltd. Apparently steps in to offer comprehensive support. Support that effectively aims to make the rental investment entirely passive for the owner. They handle the day-to-day grind.
What specific headaches do they take on? What does the owner not have to worry about?
Well, according to the description, basically everything related to the physical and operational management of the property.
Like what?
Things like security checkups when the property is vacant, handling guest changeovers, keys, cleaning, linen, all the cleaning services between guests. The gardening and maintenance of that large half-acre plot, that alone is a big job. And just general property management dealing with minor repairs, maybe a burst pipe, replacing broken tiles, responding to guest emergencies at 2 a.m.
All the stuff that drives landlords crazy.
Exactly. All those high-touch, often urgent operational tasks are handled locally and presumably immediately by the management company.
And they also handle the modern, technology-driven side of the rental business, the bookings and marketing.
Crucially, yes. The source states they provide a dedicated website for the property, and they ensure its booking calendar is fully synced up with the major international booking platforms, using Booking.com as the primary example.
That's essential for visibility.
Absolutely. This professional management aims to ensure maximum occupancy rates. They also handle all the complexities of international payment processing, managing online reviews, and optimizing the listing stuff that's often a major hurdle and time sink for independent owners, especially across borders.
And the logistics are key too, right? Given the property is in a quiet village, not a major city.
That's vital. The source highlights that they offer key logistics services like airport pickup and drop-off for clients. In a rural location like Pomoshtitsa, getting there can be a challenge for international tourists. Easy transport from the airport transforms the guest experience from potentially being a logistical nightmare into a seamless holiday.
Which drives positive reviews and repeat bookings.
Exactly. It's all part of the professional service package.
So after this extensive, expensive restoration and engaging this kind of strategic management, the owner's role is genuinely reduced to what?
According to the model presented, the owner's primary and perhaps almost sole ongoing task is remarkably simple.
Wow.
They simply receive the money from the rentals. The whole restoration project, through this lens, transforms. Via professional management, it shifts from being a potentially overwhelming operational liability into becoming a self-funding machine, specifically designed to generate predictable passive income and hopefully build long-term capital appreciation. That's the pitch, anyway. Hashtag outro.
Well, this deep dive has really truly reversed the initial perception, hasn't it? A property that looks superficially too far gone, almost a guaranteed money pit.
Yeah, really daunting at first sight.
Is revealed, on closer inspection through these sources, to be actually a robust, historically valuable structure. It's suffering only from fixable neglect, primarily that roof failure. The solid stone foundation and the inherent strength of that traditional construction provide a really solid base for what could be a high-yield investment.
It really is the ultimate testament, in a way, to the durability of traditional Bulgarian architecture when it's understood and maintained. By adhering to those traditional restoration methods, the mud brick, the embedded timber frame, and, importantly, blending that with sensible, modern, pragmatic decisions needed for year-round functionality.
Like the double glazing.
Exactly, like the double glazing. The sources frame this as an easily achievable project for those with the right skills and approach. It provides a pretty structured path, validated by that 5-year recovery model idea, to potentially achieve both high capital appreciation and sustained rental income.
The choice ultimately remains for you, the investor or potential homeowner. But it seems like a genuinely good choice to have. You could prioritize creating a personal family retreat, maybe maximizing it as a holiday use haven just for yourselves and friends, or going all in on building that sustainable passive income stream, supported by comprehensive local management. All three roads seem well-defined here based on the information.
And that strategic blend you mentioned, that blend of past and future, The authenticity of the mud brick meeting the undeniable demand for modern comfort. It brings us right back to that window compromise we discussed.
Yes. Which raises, I think, an important final question, something for you, the listener, to consider as you perhaps explore traditional property investment options, whether in Bulgaria or elsewhere. Given that other properties in Pomoshtitsa, as the source notes, have apparently been restored by Europeans attempting to keep them as original as possible, even if that results in poor winter performance.
The purist approach.
Right. To what extent does the decision to prioritize winter practicality and energy efficiency through essential modern upgrades like double glazing, to what extent does that decision affect the long-term, unique historical character and the overall collective charm of these traditional villages? Is that pragmatic trade-off always worth the guaranteed boost in profitability and comfort? Or is something lost?
A really interesting point to ponder. Where does individual optimization meet collective heritage preservation?
Exactly. Something to mull over as you draw up your own restoration blueprint.